The biggest lesson I've learned in my career is that we work with people first. Yes, we do have to work with numbers and strategies and make plans to achieve the goals that you put for your business and all that. But without people, it won't happen.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Welcome back to Facility Rockstars. I'm super pumped to introduce you to today's guest. With nearly 2 decades of experience in business operations management, strategic communications, and public affairs, our guest brings a wealth of expertise and experience. He's a dedicated student of leadership, continuously honing his skills. He guides teams towards success. He harmonizes strategies to meet the needs of both the business and the customer. He's a maintenance management specialist in the U.S. Army and also holds a position as facilities manager at ISS. Please welcome Diego Areiza. Welcome to the show, Diego.
Hey, Jay, how are you? First of all, I feel humbled and honored to be here. I appreciate the introduction, and so I'm excited. Let's do it.
Same. Absolutely. Let's do it. Thrilled that you were able to join us and also humbled that you did. So I'm psyched. And you have an amazing story to tell, both your facilities side, the military, and family, personal, all these things that we're going to get into, and I think the audience will really learn a lot from you and enjoy it as well. With that said, what is, Diego, the biggest lesson learned over the years, say through facilities and your other experiences? What would you share?
I'm going to say the biggest lesson I've learned in my career is that we work with people first. Yes, we do have to work with numbers and strategies and make plans to achieve the goals that you put for your business and all that. But without people, it won't happen. So people first, and then numbers and systems.
Thank you. I've heard that answer about people many, many times. I think yours sounds slightly different. And we've talked in the past about this, where you're managing emotions with people, and et cetera, and we can get into that, right? But What are some of the things that you've done? Call it best practices, or what have you executed to make sure that you actually do have the right people around you?
So first of all, surround yourself with the right people, and then just get the hell out of their way. You find the right people for the job, make sure you recruit the best ones, and then just let them do their job. Don't be a micromanager. I don't believe in micromanaging my teams. I believe that people have to have the opportunity to be creative and come up with the best strategies. Sometimes the people that you hire, they come from a different industry, which is my case. They come up with the best solutions. It's not about inventing the wheel or finding creating a whole new process, but they come with a fresh mind. And if you micromanage them, pretty much you're constraining their creativity and the options for your business. That's number one. Number two, deal with people emotions. Like I said, we're working with people. They're not just numbers. They come every day. They have needs, they have frustrations, maybe issues, like all of us, we carry in our backs every single day. Learn how to navigate people's emotions and get the best of them every day when they come to work for you. Get the best from them and also support them as much as possible. Like I said, I get out of the way of my teams, and I only get involved if they need me to, or if the situation requires me to get into. That doesn't mean don't monitor their work. Yes, you monitor their work, but You let them do their job. That's the best advice I could give.
And I'm guessing they appreciate that.
Oh, they love it, and I know they love it because I also love it. I have
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky enough to have a boss who relies on my knowledge and my skills, pretty much. And it's been like that for pretty much all my bosses, except a couple in my career. But you appreciate not being micromanaged. You
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that you are told, "Hey, I will tell you this." So, and I learned this in the Colombian Navy when I was an officer. They tell you what to do, but they don't tell you how to do it.
Hmm.
And I've applied this during my career, and it has given me great success. Tell your team what to do, but don't tell them how to do it. They can just figure it out.
Hmm.
And like I said, they can come up with new ideas and new solutions that you could have never thought about. And that could be the best thing for your business.
So you're saying clear, if I'm hearing you right, clear expectations, clear goals, and then, well, what if they do want some direction? How would you? I have a couple of follow-up questions. So how would you set them up for success? I understand, of course, no, I never met anyone who wants to be micromanaged, not one person, and including myself, of course. And at the same time, how do you set them up for success and support them? If you could explain that a little bit.
The best thing you can do is train them
Okay.
properly in the job. Not everyone is prepared to do the job just naturally. We all need some training. We all need to understand, like
Mhm.
you said, the expectations of the work that you are about to do. So as long as you clear the expectations and you give them provide the training that they require, the rest is it will come natural at that point.
Mhm.
And of course, like I said, I don't get involved only if they need me to. If they ask me, "Hey, I need some guidance," and my doors are always open for my teams.
Mhm.
If they come to me saying, "Hey, I need some guidance," okay, let's do it. And I may not have the answer, but I know where to look for the answers, and I will do it with them. So next time they need some help, they can try to exhaust the options first, and then
Mhm.
if they definitely don't find the answer, they'll come to me.
I love what you just said. I find many people feel as though they have to have the answer when in reality they don't. And most people appreciate it when you are humble and say that you don't. But you said something key. Where can you find the answer and what are the resources? And I think you said teach them how to do that so they can exhaust all of their resources first next time
Yeah.
before they come to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I believe you're right. I mean, one of the best qualities of a leader is be humble enough to say you don't have the answer.
Mhm.
If you don't have the answer, there's nothing wrong with that. But you can show your team how you manage to find the answers, and they'll
And I
appreciate that even more.
that's actually in the teaching and training. I believe if you show them side by side how you're gathering the information, using the resources, and getting the answer, that's going to go miles ahead of telling them how to do it. Or
And I'll tell you another benefit of doing that, Jay. Succession plan. So we most managers don't think about that, but you
mm,
gotta train your teams and work with your teams in a way that they're informed of all the process. They have all the parts of the information. So in case something happens, and I'm not gonna go with the wrong things that can happen to you, but maybe you get up. Let's think positively. You get an exciting opportunity outside of the company. You go somewhere else,
mm,
uh, they can continue the work without having like an interruption and issues that are not necessary. So succession plan. I work with my teams. My number two, my number three, they all know what we're doing, what's the expectation, what the client wants, what
mhm,
we want. In case I'm not there, they can manage. Today, I'm working from home, and I'm confident
mhm.
they got it. They got it today.
Good for you. That's in my experience more rare. Succession planning is so important, and I like what you did too. Let's take a positive spin on it. Yeah, maybe you got a job outside the company or you won $1 billion in the lottery or something like that happened, right? And you've
Absolutely.
set your team up for success. Something we haven't talked about yet is technology, and I'm wondering now that you're talking about succession planning, and I'm wondering about your documentation, your where do you keep everything, and how can they resource? I mean, I'm sorry, how can they get to those resources if you're not there? Is there a CMMS? Is there what do you?
Yeah, we do at ISS, we do have a system that we work in, and it's Maximal Coffin.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep all our work tracked and updated in Coffin pretty much all the time. And we're also big on emails and tracking and where are we with this, and folders. Organization is key. I have my military mindset in place, unfortunately for some of my teammates, because I have everything, and I also have a photographic memory. So uh,
Good for you. Wow.
yeah. So no, we enjoy working in the systems, and technology is definitely a great ally these days.
Mm-hmm.
And we can even talk a little more about that. I'm intrigued and fascinated with AI and what we can do in the future with this,
Mm.
and not too far from where we are right now.
Let's touch on that. And by the way, I've heard Maximo is a very good system from multiple people. It works very well.
Well,
So,
yeah, I've done a little bit of Maximo, but I'm also big on Salesforce. I'm also big on a couple of CRM systems that work really well, and they all do the job. Maximo is okay.
Salesforce is powerful. We utilize it as well, yet we don't utilize probably 15% of it, maybe more than that. But there's so much to it. It's a very robust platform.
It is. It is. So it is Maximo. Maximo. I believe we're only using pretty much the same amount of the capacity you're using with Salesforce.
Let's talk about AI for a minute. You touched on that, and I'm curious how you see that affecting and improving, or what will it do for facilities management? How do you see it impacting your world?
In facility management, especially for a company like mine, we work with clients, and client or account management is time demanding. It's a time demanding task. So what AI does, and I see that as an opportunity, and some people would say it differently, and I respect everyone's point of view, but I would say they actually increase productivity by assisting you with the creativity part. You know,
Mm,
you can using it properly and giving the AI the proper information, you can come up with very good reports for your client that they're gonna receive in a great way, without using the amount of time that we take sometimes to create a report and put infographics, or just a spreadsheet, or just a presentation for your client.
hmm
AI can do a lot of those things for you and just help you save time. And that's only on the just talking about account management. But if you think about facilities and how in the future AI can help you, and I would say we're pretty much pretty close to that, is you can get all the reminders and things that you have already in the CMMS systems, or CRM systems, with AI working on your calendar and working all your systems PMs, reminding
mm,
you
mm,
got this coming up, and even assisting you if you work on it properly, even assisting you on creating automatic tasks like sending an email reminder and things like that.
mm, hmm
So it actually, I believe it will increase productivity for facility managers who would like to improve it. And I don't know much about it, uh, but I do use it right now for account management,
hmm
saving time for myself. But in facilities, I'm pretty sure I have everything to learn about it.
Good for you. I like what you're saying. So it'll create reports. You can even handle the reminders for the PMs. These things are essential to effective facilities management. Could you speak to you mentioned your client a few times, and It just not who the client is, but believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of a 400,000 square foot building that you're overseeing and managing, correct?
Yes, right now I'm overseeing and managing a facility in Stockton, Mass. 400,000 square feet. It's not too old building, pretty much
Mm-hmm.
a couple decades, and complicated as you can imagine.
And that's where I wanted to go with it, like the complications, Diego, and what you face and your team faces in that very large building on a day-to-day basis. What are the top challenges? And with those top challenges, what could you share with the audience about solutions you're bringing to those challenges? What have you solved and how did you do it?
I'm gonna say so for you to in the audience to understand the scope of work that I have. I have a soft services division and a hard services division. So we
Mm-hmm.
manage services for the building that are related to from janitorial job for janitorial work to restaurant and dishwashing and all these parts. Soft services is pretty much my biggest team,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere close to 40 people. And then the hard services division is less than 10 people. But I would say the challenges are in both areas. And the main challenge is to keep our client happy. And that involves every single part of the business for me. That
Mm-hmm.
involves from customer service to PM completion to corrective actions. Things break.
Mm-hmm.
You get an asset. One day is working fine, the next day is not. So you got to come up with a fast solution for your client and pretty much have your building at 100% capacity all the time, which is hard.
Sure.
But we do our best. We do a good job, I believe, and there's always room for improvement. I'm humble enough to say we're not perfect. No,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone can say it's perfect. That also applies for leadership. I think we talked about that a little bit before, not during this program, but we did it before. You'll never be 100% a leader because situations change, and you got to be flexible enough to modify some of your actions and become a better leader every single day. I don't think we will never be the 100% a leader.
I agree. Yes, we did talk about that, Diego. And I had a follow up question from something earlier, but let's jump right into the leadership talk for a moment here because you've mentioned a few times that to me that you're a student of leadership. What do you mean by that? Can you explain?
I've
Go
been
ahead.
in leadership roles for 18 years now. And it all started with the Navy in Colombia. Always leading teams. From my first team that I led in the Colombian Navy was pretty much 20 people. And then after that, when I got retired in 2016, was close to 150 people under my supervision, and from all different backgrounds and education levels and even responsibility levels. But I would say I I consider myself a student of leadership because even though I have experience, I get surprised every single day with new things that are happening
Mm-hmm.
or challenges. We also talked about some of those challenges before, and I'll explain a little more about that, about the challenges we find today in leadership. And I'm pretty sure most of the leaders in the industry will agree with me that workforce is definitely challenging these days.
Mm-hmm.
But
And how do you
regarding
mean?
the
How do you just so we can land that? How do you mean, Diego? Challenging in what way?
Well, pandemic changed everything for everyone, especially here in the U.S. The workforce is more diverse now than ever, and therefore challenging for leaders to be able to work with different backgrounds and different expectations and even different cultures in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace. But also challenging in the sense of finding the talent right now. It's brutal out there.
Mm.
You know,
Yes.
everyone is hiring, everyone is offering everything, all the opportunities, but then at the same time it feels sometimes like we don't have enough people to work,
Mhm.
and it is challenging for everyone that is hiring right now. You
Mhm.
know, we're always recruiting, and even when I don't have a position open, I'm always recruiting. I meet people everywhere. I network and find opportunities, and even if it's not for today, tomorrow I have a bank of candidates that I have available in my hand to reach out and say, hey, you're interested in something, and then we'll go from there, right? But if you don't do that, then finding the right talent for your business is hard, brutal these days.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant that you're always networking, always recruiting, like you said, without even if you don't have an open position at the time. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I may have taken you off the mark a little, but maybe we covered it. You were talking leadership and student of leadership, and then I wanted to slow you down about the challenges in terms of workforce. But was there anything more on leadership? And I do have another question, but what else would you want to share on that?
Well, all I'm going to say is leadership is a science, and it's something you need to study, and it's something you need to evaluate. And so I do that all the time. I come home sometimes at the end of the day, and I reflect on my actions as a leader. And some days I'm satisfied. Some of the days I'm not. I could have done things better. And if you're not humble enough to study your actions and then learn more about leadership, there's resources everywhere, but there's also so many distractions these days that if you don't use the time to educate yourself and learn more about good practices in leadership, then you might be outdated at some point. So I'm a student of leadership. Like I said, I describe myself. Everyone, when I get the question asked, what type of a leader you are, I identify with the servant leadership model.
Mm-hmm.
But also I am flexible enough to say I'm learning about leadership every single day in my career.
That's very clear in how you speak, and I'll tell you, you come across as a very empathetic person, and that showed up right in the beginning when you talked about, and that's what I would like to come back to too. There's so much to talk about. I mean, the Colombian Navy, we have a lot to cover here, so you have a very very good story. But when you talked about letting people do their job, getting out of their way, and understanding how to identify with and manage their emotions, I think I'm guessing it's your empathy that allows you to be powerful in that regard. Can you talk a little more about, and I could be off the mark, that's what I'm getting from you though. When you manage emotions of people, how do you go about doing that?
I'm gonna I will have to go personal in this,
Sure.
and I don't mind sharing this with you, but I've learned to love life, and that's my motto. I actually have a tattoo on my back that says "Love Life," and it goes to learning the hard way that this life is so short and this life is so beautiful that if we use the small amount of time that we have to worry about the small things, to sweat the small things, like we
Hmm.
say here in New England, right?
Hmm.
If you worry about that too much, then you miss the beauty of life.
Hmm.
So I don't sweat the small things. I can tell you how I learned this. Being too young at my 20 years old, about to be 21, I lost my mom, and that taught me, life is short. You never know what's going to happen. Use the time wisely. And then some years ago, I have two boys, 15 and 12-year old. My younger son was diagnosed a little over 7 years ago with brain cancer.
Hmm.
And this is not a sad story. This is actually a very inspiring and encouraging story for me. We were told he was not going to make it for more than 3 months, and it's been 7+ years, and he's still fighting. And after 9 surgeries in his head, he smiles to me every single day on camera when I look at him, and that only tells me that, man, life is so beautiful. So if you work with people and you are respectful and you acknowledge that we all have needs and emotions, and that we're here to strive and not to harm anyone, but to help, um, that will change your life. And it changed mine. When I go to work, my main goal is to make someone's day.
Mm,
And if I come home and at the end of the day I didn't make anyone's day, then that wasn't a good day, you know. Reason why I also, and we have this with my soon to be my wife, every day when we come home we celebrate life,
that's
and
amazing.
it could be in the simplest way as possible, just by having a coffee together, you
Hmm.
know. That's how I see life. And
Diego, I just want to say thank you so
yeah.
much for sharing those close, heartfelt things, and good for you. Clearly, your son, in my opinion and observation, has his dad's spirit, and
Mhm.
he's a winner and he's a fighter. And we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank
I,
you. Thank you.
and understand how that ties back to what I'm calling empathy, but it's really you understand human beings and you really care.
Yes. Yes. If you don't care, you don't have passion for working
Hmm.
with people, maybe this is not your the industry you should be working on.
Hmm.
And pretty much like there's no industry where I can see you working without empathy and
Hmm.
working with people, with working with others, and being a good leader is that, you gotta make someone's day. If you don't do that, then what the hell are you doing?
Right. And I love that. Love spread that word even more. That's
Yeah.
fantastic, Diego. You know, when you thank you again, and you shared. I took some notes as you're talking here. Soft services about 40 people, and in the hard services, if I heard you correctly, it's 10 or so. So about what you've got about 50 on your staff.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit last time we spoke about communication, and we kind of touched here and there on it. But how do you organize communication throughout a team of 50 people? Also, I would imagine involving your client to a large degree too, right? Can you speak about that? Because that's something that's a common theme with our show.
Well, as you introduced at the beginning of this, my background is in communications. So I do have my bachelor in communications and journalism, and I have a master's degree in corporate communications. And the way it works, I have something that is called a stakeholders map. So my stakeholders map is everyone I have to communicate with, and I have a strategy for each one of them. So then say, let's say you have in a map, in a like mental map, you have the client, and then you have your team, and then you have the vendors, which is another big stakeholder that I work with. And each one of them has a strategy, has a tone, has a system. I have meetings established with my client that were not there before when I came on board. So we established pretty much governance meetings with my client where we discuss everything that is going on, everything that is working well, and also all the opportunities we may have. And then there's follow ups on each item that comes out of those meetings.
Hmm.
And
And
with
how
my
often do
team
these
is
meetings? Sorry, how often are
weekly.
the meetings? Weekly.
We have
Okay.
we have weekly meetings with my client, and then it's the same thing with my vendors. I have established bi-weekly meetings with my vendors, and it's just me and the account manager, or maybe a service manager, or sometimes it's the district manager is involved. And
Hmm.
what we go over is what work orders or service requests we have open right now. Where are we on these ones? What do you need from me? What can I do for this to happen faster?
Hmm.
Or just, hey, sometimes we meet and we have talked so much during the week that, okay, hey, I have nothing to add to this meeting, and it's a two
Hmm.
minutes meeting, you know?
That's smart. I find so few people will actually shorten a meeting. If it's a 30-minute meeting, most people will take the 30 minutes. But like you said, it's a 2-minute meeting because you don't need more at times.
N- Yeah, yeah.
Good for you.
Sometimes the meeting goes long because we have too many things to discuss. But if there's nothing to discuss, then let's go back to work. You know, that's it.
You meant,
That's it.
I want to jump back to on you said stakeholders map. I love what you said, and I want to know where you tell the audience and myself, please, where you learned that framework of what I heard of stakeholders map. Everyone you communicate with has a strategy and a tone, you said. You're looking at the psychology of this discussion. Can you say more about that?
Well, when you work in communications like I did for the Navy for almost, I don't know, 12, 14 years, and then a couple more years working in communications for uh, peer public relations and public affairs agencies, you learn that you have to have a strategy. And that strategy goes to, okay, who is all the people that I have to relate with? Sometimes we don't think about that, but in facilities, we do have some key audiences that we need to communicate. Let's say you work at a facility that has some impact in the environment.
Okay.
You got to consider, environmental agencies. You got to consider the community,
Hmm.
which is a big, big, big audience to work with. Uh, but if you don't do those, then that's when you make mistakes. Or that's and the whole. I'm going to tell you where this comes from. There's pretty much a law in. It's not really a law, but I call it law. It's pretty much a law in communications that goes something like this: what you don't say, someone else is going to say it, and they're going to decide the way they say it. But if you keep control of the narrative and you are the one saying the things that you need to say, then you're a winner. You know, don't leave empty spaces for other people to fill for you.
Hmm. Interesting. So, how does that play into, say, being a good listener? How do you balance that?
Well, if you don't listen, then what you're saying is it won't make any sense. You got to understand your audience's needs.
Hmm.
Let's say you're working with your client. Your client will tell you what they're looking for and set up the expectation. If you're not listening to what they're expecting you to do, then anything you say won't make any sense. So it all goes to, okay, here's my audience. Here's what this audience needs. This is the strategy that I'm going to use, and that you make that strategy a plan with goals and actions. So you go
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
the big picture to the small action, to the smallest action you got to make the big picture a reality.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so my mind is racing. Did you learn this in the Colombian Navy? Where did this, or did you just learn this in your education about communications and experience?
It's a combination of
Hmm.
knowledge and experience. It's a combination also of you know mm, winnings and defeats. you
Mm.
know
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
you win, but you lose all the time.
Hmm.
Then this will go also to the leadership topic. You don't always win. You make mistakes,
Hmm.
and but the key is, if you make a mistake and you don't learn from it, then you're failing. Just make
Agreed.
mistakes and make good mistakes. Don't be afraid of making a mistake, but
Hmm.
learn from it. And move on, and don't make that mistake again, because that means you didn't learn from it, right?
Right. Right.
But if
Of
you learn,
course.
but if you learn from your mistakes, then your strategy, your skills, your expertise, that's what's gonna make sense in the future.
Diego, outstanding. We've learned so much from you in a short amount of time. I can't thank you enough for teaching us all about your frameworks, your strategy, your way of working with a team, hiring people, good people, getting out of their way. Having empathy for what they're going through in their life and celebrating the good things, recognizing the failures. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot here. Succession planning, it's huge. And then how you manage a staff of 50, and how you have a plan for each and every one of them, and there's a strategy and tone. It's excellent. You've taught us so much in a short amount of time. I want to give enough time to learn a little bit more about you. You were kind enough to share your family story to a degree, and the Colombian Navy, but what more would you like to share about your younger years, if you will, or how it started?
Oh man, my dad is the smartest person in the world, and I mean that. He's a civil engineer back in Colombia, national prize in engineering from a couple of years ago, and I always thought that I wanted to do what he was doing. because I used to go to his office and watch him work. And but he owns his own, structural design company in Colombia. And then so I pursued the civil engineer career at some point. And when I got to college, and I saw what it really was, I didn't like it. So I said, you know what, this is not for me. And then I understood years later, after I completed my communication education, that watching my dad work wasn't really about engineering. I was watching him work with people,
Mm.
and he
Hmm.
was also managing teams. He was also managing relations with vendors. He was also managing projects. So that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I did pretty much all my time during the Navy. I was lucky enough to have mentors in the Navy who found in me creativity and leadership skills that I was never told, no, that's not what you're gonna do. I had someone that I would like to talk really quick about. You He's one of my biggest mentors is Admiral Rodolfo Amaya. He taught me that you got to work with your people, understand how they like to work, and get the best of them. So he was a guy that I would come with and say, hey, I have this idea, why don't we do this? And I was always thinking outside the box, not in the traditional military way.
Hmm.
And he would try to guide, of course, align my project with the Navy goals and plans. And if that added to his KPIs, he would never say no. He would go for it. He would say, okay, what do you need? And to the point where at some point I created things for the Colombian Navy that are still in place. And I'm proud to say we came up with solutions for different communities and places from Colombia that were never considered before. I'll tell you one short, and it wasn't only me; it was the whole team behind me and one of my bosses. We came up with a marathon in the south of the country, in the middle of the jungle, in the border with Peru and Ecuador, a place forgotten by the government. And that race started in 2007, and it's still on the national calendar, the athleticism calendar. And
Wow.
and the whole philosophy behind it was we're gonna give the kids in this forgotten side of the country an option for the future. Sports. Use your time wisely and use it for sports, and you can get a career from this.
What an
And that was,
amazing thing to do. That's
yeah.
amazing.
So it was just thinking outside the box. So that's how my career started. And then when I felt like I reached the top of my career in the Navy, I just decided that it was time to move on. I wanted to continue my career in the civilian job, the civilian part, and I have nothing but success and challenges moving to a different country. I wasn't expecting to come to this country. I came for love.
Mm.
So yeah, and having to start all over again after being in a leadership role back in Colombia and moving to a different country and start all over from the ground is not easy. But I'm not afraid to change,
No,
and
I
I'm
can
not
tell.
afraid to try it. Yeah.
I think you embrace change. You're not you run towards it. You don't run away from it.
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Diego, thank you for sharing the why behind coming to the United States and the unseen challenges that, you faced. Were you in the Navy when this occurred, or had you already left the Navy
No, I
when
left the Navy in 2016, and I moved to the U.S. in 2019, 3 years
Okay.
later.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I did work for some government agencies after I got retired, always in communications.
Hmm.
And then I worked for Edelman, which is one of the biggest PR and communications firms from all over the world. They're based in Chicago, but I was working for a client in Latin America. And then, I met someone and I decided to move into the US, and it's been a blessing. I'm living the best years of my career.
That's amazing. That's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So, what a diverse background. You've got military. You created a marathon. What a great mentor in the Admiral, allowing you to maybe arguably that's where you learned to hire someone and get out of their way. Sounds like he was
Yes.
never in your way. He just supported you.
Yeah. He was never in my way. He would get my ideas and get the most of them by supporting me.
Fantastic. Diego, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. We've learned a lot now about you and from you. How would people get in touch with you if they wanted to talk more? If you're willing, if you wanted to engage with the audience.
I'm always on, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. So if you want to find me, just look for Diego Areiza and you'll see there's only one. That is just a facility manager in Boston or in Massachusetts. Uh, but then and then I'll go from there. Once we chat, and then there's opportunities to network. I'll be happy to collaborate with everyone else. Which, by the way, leads me to say I hope to be back at your show at some point.
Round two is we'll get that organized right away. I would love to have you back. Love to have you back, Diego. There's so much more to talk about. We only touched the surface.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much. Have an awesome day. And thank you to the audience for listening. If you want to find Diego, find him on LinkedIn. And until next time, Facility Rockstars is out. Thanks, Diego.
Thank you for having me.
It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.